Hey everyone, I am here today with a video on combining stamp sets. Here's a look at the card that I'm going to make today, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be using 3 stamp sets. They're from MFT, Vanity Plates, the Alleyway Stamps, Learning Curve, and Paper Tray Ink Out of This World. You could see them all right there, and I'll be using bits and pieces from every one. To start this card, I'm starting with a 2" by 5.5" piece of plain white cardstock, and I'm going to put that in the bottom corner of my MISTI because I'm going to use those alphabet stamps in the MFT set to spell out world. My sentiment is going to read, "You are out of this world." So I wanted to make world really big, and then I'm also going to make my O a die cut with a world. So I've got a filler in there that I've cut from the die cut I'm going to be using just to hold its place for now so I can space out my letters properly. So I'm just going to put those on, and the nice thing about the MISTI is once I get these sort of lined up, it's not going to be perfect with your fingers, but I can push that lid down, pick them up, and use my grid lines on the MISTI to go ahead and line them up so they'll stamp perfectly straight. So now I've got this VersaMagic ink. It's just a navy blue ink, and I'm going to go ahead and put that onto my stamps there. And this is a chalk ink. So the first time I stamp it, you're going to see it's not a very good impression with it. I've had this ink for I think like 7 years now. So it's getting old, but it still works good. And the great thing is I'm using my MISTI, so I can go ahead and use that same ink pad, ink it up again, and stamp it down again. I did this about 3 times, and I'm going to be heat embossing this, so that's okay. I'll go ahead and take that out, and you can see how good of an impression I can get with the MISTI because I can stamp so many times over it. So I've got some Ranger Superfine Detail Embossing Powder that I'm just going to sprinkle on, and then I'll flick off the extra. And I'll just coat it again really quickly just to make sure I've got it covered. And then I'll go ahead and use my heat gun and heat set that. And I don't know about you, but heat embossing still amazes me more than the first time I did it. Just to see it turn, and you can really see well on this because it is a dark blue and you can just see it turn a nice dark shade with the embossing powder. And my heat gun died on me this week, so I'm pretty sad. I've got to get a new one quickly. It's one of my favorite techniques. There you can see the shine you get with that clear embossing powder over the chalk ink. It's just gorgeous. So now I have my space holder here, and I lined up that world stamp from the Alleyway Learning Curve stamp set. And again, because I'm using my MISTI, I had a lot of play time with it to be able to center it just perfect. So I've put that in there. And now I'm going to take my embossing bag and I'm going to prep my cardstock, surface of my cardstock, because I'm going to heat emboss this also. And I want to heat emboss this in black. So to do that, I'm going to be using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And then I will stamp this down right onto my paper. And you'll see because I have the MISTI, it stamps perfectly centered. And that does matter because I am going to come in and cut this out. And I don't want to end up cutting off part of my letters when I do this. So I'll just lay that down. And again, I'm using the same Ranger Superfine Detail in clear. And I'll sprinkle that on and just flick off the excess. And then I heat set that with my embossing heat tool. So now I'm taking this circle die. It's the same one that I had cut the circle out with to be my placeholder. And I am putting that and lining it up on my stamp. This did not come with the stamp set. It is just one that I have from a nesting circle die. And I'm just lining that up, and I will use some washi tape to go ahead and hold that down so it doesn't shift on me during the cutting. I'll just cut that out, and then you'll see when this comes out how awesome it looks now that it's just popped out of there. It cut very close to the stamp. Now I'm just doing some very, very, very simple colored pencil coloring with some Gamsol. I'm just scribbling on some color, and I will come in with this blending stump and some Gamsol, and I'll just blend that out. And it gives it a little depth, not a whole lot, but enough. And there you can see my world is nicely colored. So now I have my Versamark ink pad. I'm prepping this navy blue piece of cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 with my embossing bag. And I went to go grab a coffee filter and I forgot to turn my camera back on, so I did not capture this. All I did was load up these stars. They are from the Paper Tray Out of This World mini stamp set, and I just loaded those onto an acrylic block, and there you can see the stamp set. It's got a ton of really cute images in it. I use these a lot for lunchbox notes for my son's cards. He loves lunchbox notes. So I just inked these star stamps up in my Versamark ink, and I just turned my stamp and stamped them down. And then I just used some white embossing powder over it and heat set that. And I did it in sections too, so my Versamark didn't dry in between. So now I've just got this tiny strip of black cardstock, and I'm going to use the You're Out of This World stamp from the Alleyway Stamps, but I only want the top part that says you're out of. So I just taped off the world, and then I inked it up, removed the tape, and I can stamp that right down onto that black strip of cardstock. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with the black piece yet, so it's just a plain black rectangle right now, and I will eventually cut this down in just a moment. But I am sprinkling some white embossing powder over that, again, tapping off the excess, and then I'll use my heat gun and heat set that as well. Before I did that, however, I did have some just little pieces that I wanted to knock off that stuck where I guess I had a few fingerprints or something. So I just take a dry, very small paintbrush, and I'll just wipe away those little embossing specks. Because this is white on black, you could see it very clearly if I were to leave those on. So I'll go ahead and heat set that. And there you can see I just have You're Out of This. And then because I stamped World, that will end up finishing off my phrase there, or my sentiment. So now I've put some double-sided adhesive on the back of that navy blue star panel. And I've just attached that to an A2 top folding white note card that I've made myself. I have also adhered some fun foam onto the back of my World letters there, and I'm just going to go ahead and peel off the backing on the other side, and I will attach that to the lower third of the card panel. I've also already put some double-sided adhesive on the back of my World stamp that I've colored. I'll just peel the backing away from that, and then I will push that through the die cut opening so it attaches to the navy blue panel. I wanted this to be a little bit further down. You could always make this a shaker card. However, this is probably going to go in my son's lunchbox on a special day, and I didn't want the opportunity to have beads or sequins or glitter go everywhere all over the lunchroom. I don't think the teachers would appreciate that. So now I'm taking this black sentiment panel and I'm just cutting a fishtail on the right hand side. I'll put some double-sided adhesive on that and attach that above the World sentiment down there, and that finishes the card off for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will leave you all with just a few pictures. For more information and a complete supply list, you can visit my blog, craftingwhilecaffeinated.wordpress.com. Thank you guys so much for watching, and happy crafting!